It started with a noise so loud it rattled the coffee right out of my hand. I looked up and saw a shiny white helicopter wobbling above my barn, spinning like a lost fly before it slid sideways and crashed straight into my cornfield. I just stood there, half in disbelief, half in awe, as champagne sprayed from the door and one furious woman in a peach blazer climbed out yelling, "Who painted the runway?" That was my first real-life encounter with Mrs. Valerie Kent, 60 years old. HOA president, queen of cul-de-sacs, and self-appointed guardian of everything she could see from her front porch. And me. I'm Mason Grant, 54, retired engineer, and the owner of the land she just crash-landed on. See, I built that little airstrip 20 years ago, back when I was crop dusting and working odd jobs for local farms. Got it cleared by the FAA, paved it myself, even hung a little sign that said private use, M. Grant Airfield. It wasn't fancy, but it was mine, and I kept it in perfect shape. For years, that strip sat quiet, just me, the wind, and the sound of corn rustling. Until Valerie's gated paradise popped up half a mile away, Lakeshore Meadows. A retirement dream for rich folks who thought living near farmland made them rustic. They had golf carts, fountains, and enough bylaws to make the Constitution look like a napkin doodle. At first I didn't mind, but then I started noticing men in neon vests walking my fence line with clipboards. One of them said they were surveying for a recreational expansion. I told him the boundary ended 300 feet ago and pointed him back toward his HOA kingdom. He gave me that helpless smile, the one that means I'm just following orders. A week later, a shiny sign popped up right beside my mailbox. It read, "Future site of Lakeshore Air Access, for community members only." I laughed so hard I nearly spilled my coffee again. Surely this was some mix-up. But the next month I saw tire tracks on my runway that weren't mine. One morning a Cessna came gliding down like it owned the place. Out stepped a group of folks in pastel polos, led by Valerie herself, clipboard in hand and confidence in full bloom. "Mr. Grant," she said, "like we were old friends. We're just testing the strip for potential investors. You'll be compensated, of course." I said, "You mean trespassing?" She smiled sweetly. "Oh, Mason, don't be dramatic. The new zoning overlay designates this as a shared amenity. It's progress." I laughed. "Lady, that overlay was printed on a lie." She waved and walked off like I was some confused farmer blocking her view of progress. I called the sheriff, old buddy of mine, Pete. He scratched his chin, said it was technically trespassing, but if the county map backed her story, it might take weeks to untangle. And knowing Valerie's brother sat on the zoning board, yeah, I knew how that'd go. Over the next few weeks, things got crazy. SUVs lined up champagne glasses, clinking people, taking Instagram photos with captions like, "Private air access, courtesy of Lakeshore HOA." My runway turned into their social club. I found golf tees, tire streaks, even a half-empty mimosa glass on my fence post. Every time I confronted her, she played the same tune. Soft voice, fake sympathy, real arrogance. "You should be grateful, Mason. This raises your property value." I'd tell her I didn't build this for property value. I built it for work. But she never listened. That's when I called Miguel, my old mechanic buddy. He took one look at the rubber marks and said, "Man, they're treating this like a racetrack. You sure you don't want to teach them a little lesson?" I grinned. "Oh, I'm thinking about it." I started recording everything: drone footage, trail cams, even copies of their flyers advertising private jet access minutes from the clubhouse. Then came her biggest stunt yet, the Lakeshore Aviation Gala. Valerie's name was all over the invitations. Gold lettering, exclusive brunch, live flight, showcased the whole suburban Broadway act. And the location, my runway. I didn't yell. I didn't threaten. I just made a small adjustment. Nothing illegal, nothing dangerous. Let's just say I gave the runway a fresh coat of sealant, slick, smooth, and shiny as glass. A little too smooth if you didn't know what you were doing. The morning of the event, I stood by my fence with Miguel sipping coffee. Cars rolled in. Tents went up. Valerie strutted across the field in a lemon-yellow dress, waving like a queen at her coronation. "Welcome to Lakeshore Air Access," she shouted. Music played, people clapped, drones hovered overhead. It was a full circus. Then came the grand finale, a helicopter showcase. When the rotors spun up, I could feel the vibration under my boots. The pilot throttled forward, gaining speed down the strip. And then it started. The skid slipped. The helicopter fishtailed like a drunk ice dancer, spun once, twice, then slid straight into my cornfield. Dirt flew. People screamed. Valerie dropped her champagne flute and yelled, "Who made the runway slippery?" I wanted to laugh so bad, but I just called out, "Everything okay in there?" By the time the sheriff and FAA arrived, I had all the evidence lined up. Documents, footage, FAA registration showing my ownership. The agents weren't amused. One of them, serious as a judge, turned to Valerie and said, "Ma'am, this is private federal airspace, not your playground." She went pale. "That can't be." "My brother, ma'am," he cut her off. "Your brother isn't the FAA." The footage went viral within hours. News crews swarmed. Headlines read, "HOA helicopter party ends in cornfield crash." Memes popped up overnight. Someone even photoshopped a runway closed, due to Karen sign. I didn't post them, but I'll admit I laughed. A week later, Valerie tried to sue me defamation, negligence, emotional distress. Her lawyer came at me with all the drama of a soap opera villain, claiming I intentionally humiliated her. My attorney, Ellen Carter, barely held a straight face in court. When she played the video of Valerie shrieking, "Who made it slippery?" the whole courtroom laughed. Even the judge smiled before banging the gavel. "Case dismissed," she said. Defendant awarded damages. That was the day Valerie's empire cracked. Her brother resigned. The HOA collapsed under fines. Homeowners turned on her. Lakeshore's fancy sign now hung crooked lights flickering like a dying ego. A few months later, I got a visit from a man in a government SUV. He introduced himself as Agent Briggs from the Federal Aviation Department. Said my paperwork listed the strip as an auxiliary emergency runway under federal jurisdiction, still active after all these years. He offered me a part-time position as a local liaison. "You've basically been maintaining it for us," he said. I nearly spit my coffee. So she wasn't just trespassing on private land. He grinned. "No, sir. She was trespassing on federal property. Sometimes life really does have a sense of humor." Valerie wanted luxury flights. Turns out she was flying over Uncle Sam's backyard. Now the airstrip's quiet again. No jets, no parties, just the hum of tractors and the wind in the corn. Miguel still jokes. "Best harvest you ever had. Mason, pure karma." And maybe he's right. I don't hate Valerie anymore. I just hope she learned something about boundaries, both legal and moral. Because in the end, arrogance always thinks it can fly. But gravity always wins. So tell me, what would you have done if someone used your airstrip without asking? Would you let it slide, or would you set a little trap of your own? Drop your thoughts below. I'm curious where you stand on justice versus revenge.